Welcome back to Life Uncensored, navigating adulthood one episode at a time. Let's see who's riding shotgun today. We have Laura Hardnett. Laura's life experience, including early motherhood, a difficult marriage, and personal challenges, forms the foundation of her Empower You coaching. She offers personalized deep dives into client struggles to facilitate true empowerment and transformation. Her certifications in health and transformational mastery coaching contribute to a holistic and empathetic approach, creating a nurturing environment for client growth. Laura shares her journey and strategies for overcoming obstacles and embracing self worth in her coaching sessions, inspiring and empowering others to embark on their path of self discovery. Welcome to the stage, Miss Laura Hardnett.
Hi.
Hi, Laura. Thank you so much for joining us today and willing to talk to our audience about your journey and what exactly it is that you do with your mindset and empowerment coaching.
I'm excited to be here. Yeah, so I love the intro and I really love the work that you're doing. I was excited that you reached out and I love that you are creating this beautiful platform to share positive messages and for people to connect and to learn, to heal, to share. And I'm really honored to be a part of that with you. So thank you for
Well,
that.
thank you. Thank you for accepting the invitation. For those who don't know, Laura and I go way back to middle school and high school. So, not to tell our ages, we've known each other quite a while and um, we reconnected. And I was so inspired by her journey and what she's been doing with her coaching that I thought it would be great for our audience to hear and learn about what she's doing as well. So we're going to just jump right into it. Like I said, she is riding shotgun today. So we're going to just jump right into it. Laura, will you first talk to us and explain what mindset and empowerment coaching is and what it
Mhm.
involves?
Yeah, it's a great question because oftentimes I get people come and they say, "Oh, so you're a life coach," and although that yes, that is a common kind of coaching profession specialty. It's not really what I do. There's elements of life coaching in the work that I do, but for me, mindset coaching and with my clients has to do with getting to the core of behavior change. So, what I do is I work with my clients to uncover deep rooted limiting beliefs, capturing reasons why we keep finding ourselves in similar situations despite our desire to change. So, mindset is truly the foundation of behavior change. But what most practices focus on is let's fix the behavior. Let's fix the behavior, and they focus a lot on the behavior. I want to know what is driving that behavior and getting to the core of that. So I empower my clients. That's why I consider myself a mindset empowerment coach, because I don't believe that I am here to fix anyone. I don't think that I'm better than anyone. I don't think that I have all the answers for everyone. And in fact, oftentimes I don't even share my story because it doesn't matter when I'm working with my clients. I believe that we all have our own answers and our own internal guides, but we have disconnected from them, and so we are living in this state of anxiety. So we have this desire for something, but we find ourselves not doing it, and now we have this feeling that we're not doing what we're meant to be doing, and that creates the anxiety feeling. So I help my clients discover what it is that they desire, and then we bridge the gap between where they are and then where they want to go.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I even recently, have talked to a couple of people, just chatting it up type thing,
Mm-hmm.
where, I'm hearing a similar story. I just don't know what I want to do. I'm not fulfilled at my job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not fulfilled in my marriage. I'm not, different aspects of their life. They're like, but I don't know what I want to do. I feel like in help other
Mhm.
people, and I can see the good in other people and give suggestions on how they should move, and but I can't seem to do it for myself. So it sounds like
Mhm.
that's something that you help with. Um,
Exactly.
that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. You know, you're spot on. It is something that we all, even myself, have struggled with over the years. And I know that, you know, one of the questions that I know that you had shared with me that you were going to ask, which I don't want to jump to, but there is something, you know, I do think it's important to share that component, because we all, although we think that we're so different, I think that internally we all have very similar struggles in our mind. And so that's what connects us, but not many people are vulnerable enough to share that openly, because we have this, like, there is this pushed culture that everyone is supposed to have picture perfect life, and let's post all of our highlight reels so that everyone can feel like, you know, we're making it in life. And then the more that we have this social platform that is rewarding people for their highlight reels, the more disconnected people feel.
So
And
true.
yeah, that's why I love that what you're doing is trying to, you know, not trying, but you are creating a platform for people to be able to, you know, connect with other people, even if they're not necessarily the same in their daily lives, you know, to connect people together with the idea that, yeah, you know, we might be different, but we're also very much the same. And we struggle very similar in many ways, despite whether, you know, whatever is our differences, it just doesn't matter. Like when I work with my clients, I have a lot of different diverse clients, and I can tell you, from very successful clients to, you know, living by paycheck clients, and the struggles are the same. I mean, they're
Mm,
slightly different, you know, when it comes to like some of their core fears with like
sure, sure.
survival. But the mindset stuff, the insecurities and the not enoughs and the inner critic and the I don't know what to expect, those are very similar despite,
Wow.
you know, that difference.
I'm sure a lot of people listening to this needed to hear that, because even though that's something you probably know in the back of your
Mhm.
mind, you don't think of it when you're in the thick of it.
Right.
So I'm glad you said that. So talk to
Mhm.
me about how did you get here? How long have you been a mindset empowerment coach, and how did you get to this space in your life?
Yeah. Oh gosh, I know you said not to tell our age or anything, you know, but I feel like if I shared my journey, it feels like I've lived a few lifetimes, and I really truly have. I've had many different moments that have brought me to where I'm at today and the work that I do. I also have a very strong belief that we are all divinely guided, and all my struggles have definitely led me to where I am at. And I have always felt that I was here to serve others. Like I've always felt like that was just one of
Hmm.
my like divine path that was, you know, given to me before I even arrived here on this earth. Um, but I used it when I was younger, in a very dysfunctional way, because I didn't have the self love and the empowerment, and I hadn't healed um, myself. So I found myself in situations where I was putting others before me, and I was always selfless. And I thought that that was the way that you were supposed to be. I thought that, you know,
Hmm.
I was here to help others, and I didn't realize that I wasn't supposed to help others and hurt myself in the same moment.
Wow.
Um, yeah, and I also didn't realize that I really had to go through the pain that I went through, even though there was a lot of pain through this journey of mine, in order for me to truly have the empathy and the space to hold for my clients. So that being said, I was very young, and I was pregnant when I was 17. I had a baby at 18. I was in a marriage early on, and he was getting locked up for armed robbery. And I had
Hmm.
just found out that I was pregnant. And again, I was thinking more about how to save him than what it was for me. So I, you know, did the sacrificing things, and I had tons of resentment and like through this long journey. That was a very short marriage when he got out of jail, because I thought that that was the right thing to do. Got into another marriage that was there for 20 years. And this is the father of my two other children. I have three boys. And there was a lot of growth on both of our ends, for sure. Like, they say, I believe that people come into your life as spiritual partners, meaning like they came here to trigger every wound that you have so that you can heal. And
Woo!
he was that.
Woo!
He was that person. So
Wow.
20 years of fighting it out. And, I think it will be better. And, if I'm only better, and if I was a better wife, and if I was a better mom, and if I was a better, then this would work. And then I realized that this illusion that I created for myself was based off of these beliefs. I'm like, why does this keep happening? Why do I keep finding myself in this cycle? There has to be something more for me. And that's when I started to get inspired by seeking. And it just seemed like the stars aligned, and everything, like whether it was a book that I was reading, and at the end of the book, there was the author that talked about another book that they had read that inspired them, or some course that they had taken. And then I'm Googling that course. And then I'm like, that led me to the next thing, and to the next thing. And then I was blown away when I realized that it wasn't the external things that were creating my suffering. It was what I was thinking to myself, and what I was believing about myself and about others and the world, that created the suffering. And that's when I started to get really curious about Tony Robbins and his book about, personal development and the power of beliefs. And then that led me to Dr. Joe Dispenza, breaking the habit of being yourself, and how like we can actually be something to create it. Like we have to reverse engineer, not try to do the things and then become it. We have to become it and then reverse engineer it. So that led me into health coaching. That led me into life coaching. And then from the life coaching, I did the mastery coaching. And that led into the transformational work that I do, which is the mindset and the empowerment.
That's amazing. I mean,
more, but I was like, we only have an hour. So let me.
No, I mean, just because again, how many people have had those thoughts and can't figure it out? So to know that there is someone out there who has done the work, well, first acknowledged that work needs to be done, and done the work, and has come out clean on the other side. Laura, that's amazing to me. That's
Well,
amazing.
Thank you.
How is empowerment coaching different than your traditional counseling or therapy?
Yeah, I get that a lot. There's so many tools that we have access to if we are seeking, healing. And my experience in therapy has always been like, it's a great place to go when you want to share and you feel like there's a safe place to talk about your problems. And then depending on the therapist, they might talk about, what's going on with you? Where did it come from? How can we fix the problem that you come to them for? And they want to talk about how to manage your emotions. Like, how do we deal with this that you're experiencing in life? The work that I do, and I can't speak to all therapists because I know that there are different therapists that have different certifications and they have different types of tools and resources that they use. The coaching work that I do is that I'm not so much concerned about what happened to you as much as I'm concerned and focused on the meaning that you made about yourself, about others, and the world when that thing happened to you.
Wow.
So that's different.
Wow. Okay. So basically, more or less how you perceive yourself in the world, and how the world perceives you, and how you got to that space, and how can we change directions? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. So once the story has a lot of information, right? So the experience, there's a lot of information that you can receive from the experience. What happens is that a lot of times in this we become victimized from our story. And the story, as real as it feels, and the emotional impact and the wound that it created in the body and in the mind, if you don't have anything to kind of move you through the story and to figure out what you can actually use from that story to understand your present and to prepare for your future, then you just become a victim. And then you feel stuck and that anxiety grows. So the work that I do is like, okay, let's discover the story. Because a lot of times we're not even aware of what the story is, because either we've disconnected completely from our past to kind of process the emotion because we couldn't process the emotion, or we're just so busy with just, like distraction, because we don't want to experience the pain. Then a lot of times we don't even know that in the background, that is what is running the show. That is what is influencing our behaviors and our feelings and our emotions and our perception of the world. And it's very important to know this, because again, your beliefs, your eyes, I say this often, your eyes are your vessels to your thoughts. So if you don't know what you're thinking, then you are at the mercy of seeing life from a very distorted lens. And then you wonder why you're in this state of distress, or why you see everything as like the black cloud keeps following you, or there's so much bad happening in the world. That often is from what you are perceiving in your mind. So I help my clients get clear on what it is that they're thinking so that they know what they are seeing in the world.
So change your thoughts, change what you see. Like
Yes.
those things kind of walk hand in hand.
Yes. And I think that's great, because your thoughts are real to you. And so they can feel like I struggled with this for a while. It's like, wait a minute, what do you mean change my thoughts? So I'll give an example. My mom and dad, they were great parents, but there's a lot of generational, I want to say, experiences, like what their life was and from their parents and how they were raised and what they passed on to us. So besides just generational, my parents were also they have the religion that they were raising us in. They had these beliefs, and the beliefs really didn't focus on school. It was just a matter of, this is what we're here for, and we're not focused. They didn't really encourage us to go to school because it wasn't in their mind important. And so later in life, I think in my 20s or 30s, I was very angry. I was so upset. And I thought I was unhappy with where I was at. And I kept saying, if my parents had only pushed me to do this, if they only encouraged me, if they only supported me, then I could have been this and I could have been that. And I was so stuck on that story. One day I was talking to my mentor and I was telling him this because I needed him to just confirm that I was, how dare they, and kind of reinforce what I was thinking. And he says, okay. He said, we'll tell a different story. And I was like, that's a lie. How can I tell a different story? Because that would be a lie. And he said, is it a lie? Or is it just a different perception? And I thought, wow, like that, I couldn't embrace it at first. I was like, no. And anything you resist, this is like a little side tip. I've noticed in my years of doing this work, the more you resist something, the bigger the message is, right? And the idea that you definitely want to shine light into that space and to get curious. So I said, tell a different story. And my story that was different was that, yes, the situation didn't change, but then my story now is that my parents did the best that they could with what they knew. My parents thought that they were doing what was best for me. But now I can take control of what I need to do to learn, to grow, and I take full responsibility. And it was like an instant shift. I remember I used to cry like I felt so disempowered. I felt like the victim. I'm like, I didn't know how to get through this because I couldn't go back and change the past, but I couldn't figure out how to fix it. So it was just in that shift and that reframe of how I saw a situation that I realized that it really changed everything for me. And then that led me into this journey of growing and learning and seeking and doing what I know that I'm here for. So that's what I mean. Like, you know, we feel like our thoughts are real. We feel like what we think is true, but in reality, the thought is there, but before thought becomes a belief. So still going back to that belief, you got to get to the real root of your experience to really be able to have true lasting change. And that's the work that I do.
I love that. I love it. So how many would you say, guesstimate, clients do you feel you've successfully helped while doing this?
Yeah. It's so interesting because one of the hardest things that I have to do in the work that I have to do, not that I have to do, is not making this about me and my ego.
Yeah.
So when I do the work, I have to really like ground myself and say, I'm not here to fix anyone, because I can only control what I can control. I can be there to facilitate and support and guide and ask really good questions that we typically don't ask ourselves. But then it's up to the person to decide how they're going to utilize the information. And the success that I see success as is that 95% of my business is all referral. And so a lot of the work is because people have experienced such transformations, and then they then tell others that they know that are also suffering in different ways about it. And the really interesting thing is that I didn't come into the work that I'm doing with a very specific avatar, as they would say, in like, you know, the business side of building a business. And I didn't have like one person. And that always felt like it kind of stumbled me, because I thought in messaging, you have to speak to one person with one demographic and one, like all these things that they tell you about how to build a business. And I couldn't, because I'm like, everyone can benefit from this.
Yeah.
But the interesting, because it's mostly referrals, is that one of my first coaching clients with the mastery coaching prior, because I did health coaching and stuff, but with the mastery mindset stuff, he actually is a very successful coach for men. And he has a different approach from married men, and he focuses on helping them reconnect with their spouse. So he's great at what he does, but I had no idea that through his transformation that he was going to refer all of his clients that he knows needs deeper work, right? So that needs work beyond just I want to fix my relationship. So I just now have most of 95% of my clients are men. And I had to say that I think that that's not by accident.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't think it's by accident. Being a mom of 3 boys, and also what I saw in my marriage with a man, obviously, like there's not a lot of resources for guys, and there's like a different approach. Mostly if you find like the coaching industry for men, it's very military, like they just like scream, suck it up, buttercup, and you know, get your shit together and be a man, and da 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 da. And even though that there's a lot of great messaging underneath of that, it's still activating a trauma, like a wound in that male. And so what I do is I can provide a very safe, non-judgmental, but feminine relationship where they can feel vulnerable, not judged, cared for, and loved. And I think that that is what is missing in the coaching for men. So although I can help anyone, I find that I really do love this space. I really do love that.
I don't know if you were able to tune in last podcast or last episode where John Howard talked about his men's mentoring group, almost for exactly the reasons that you're saying, where men can come in, be vulnerable with each other, no judgment zone,
Yeah.
walk in feeling broken for whatever the week bought them or the day bought them, with a goal of sending everyone back out into the streets feeling a lot better than they came in. Not necessarily meaning that it's fixed, but knowing that they have that brotherhood, that camaraderie, that safe space to be able to just be themselves. So
Yeah.
I 1000% agree with you as far as the limited
Yeah.
resources for men in that way, having that chance to be vulnerable, and say, look at the mess that I am, but that doesn't lose any respect. That doesn't lose any integrity. It just, helps to build them. So I think that's great. And I agree with you. I think that is, like you said, about 90-95% of your clients being men at the time. I think that is divine intervention for whatever reason. So
Yeah.
I'm not surprised to hear you say that, to be honest.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. So let me ask you, how long do you stay with your clients? Is there a set time, like, oh, I'm going to be with you for 6 months, or is it just based on need? How does that part of it work?
Generally it definitely is not this is 6 visits or 12 visits and then everything is completely fine. Although it has happened. Although I've had one of my clients 6 visits and he was like, wow, this was transformational and I feel like I'm in a great space and I will reach out if I need any additional support. And I'm like, great, because honestly, there are people that stay into certain programs way too long. It's almost like it becomes a crutch to their own healing, meaning like it's just a safe place that they stay in and they feel like they need somebody there to hold them up. And they're just still in a place of not taking that leap to know again that they are everything they need is within themselves. So
Yeah.
depending on the layers of somebody's situation, right? It's like an onion when we're peeling through things. And what happens with the way that the mind works, so there's different parts of the brain. We have a survival part of the brain, which is called the critter brain. It's not the technical, term in the medical field. Like if you go to the doctor, she's like, my critter brain, they're not gonna know what you're talking about. But in psychology and excuse me, in personal development, excuse me, it is considered the critter brain because it's the oldest part of the brain. And this this part of the brain, which is in the back of the head, is actually responsible for like your fight or flight, survival, if looking for danger. And the brain doesn't know the difference between a real danger, like a lion chasing you, and a perceived danger that you've decided is dangerous. Like, I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills, or this person looks sketchy, might hurt me because of a past experience that was very similar. Danger, danger, danger. It is like this automatic way that we've been given to survive here on this earth. Although if luckily we have the frontal cortex and we have another part of our brain, the emotional brain, that kind of keeps that critter brain, like this is what separates us from animals, right? We have the consciousness. So that being said, it takes a little bit of time to what I call build rapport, right? So getting somebody in all parts of that person to feel relaxed, to actually connect on an emotional level and to feel safe. So I don't go in there like, we're going to just tell me everything and, let's fix this fast. It's just a natural dance almost, where you go in and everybody is very different of how much they are connected to themselves. So the more self-aware a person is, the healing process moves along faster because there's less resistance and there's more awareness. Now, if somebody's been really fully disconnected from themselves emotionally, where they haven't cried in over a decade, or they don't really know when they're happy, sad, angry, frustrated, scared, fearful because they just haven't had any work in the emotional space, then we're going to need to do some work in that area, and that takes some time. So I've had clients that have stayed with me for 6 sessions. I have clients that 12 is like a really, like, I always like 12 because it gives us a really good base. And then I've had, somebody do 36 weeks. So again, when I do offer services, I always suggest the 6 or the 12 to start. And then I just have now clients that go through like a healing process of the work that I do. And then we just do as needed. So then we'll do individual sessions. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The reason why I don't like to say don't, like, as in it's like, it's never could happen, but I just know that there are layers, and I'm not interested in just giving you something to do, like a worksheet, and then sending you on your way. It just doesn't serve the person. So it doesn't feel right to me to tell somebody, yeah, I'll just do one session with you, because I know that's not going to get them what they need. Right. So I'd rather say no to that than to say yes to something that I know that wouldn't really serve the person in the way that I know that they're looking to be served.
Gotcha. And that makes sense. Mm-hmm. What would you say are some of the most common challenges or limiting beliefs that you've seen, your clients face, and how do you help them climb over that mountain and get to the other side?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there is this, what I do work in, which is called the birthrights. And we have birthrights that we don't even have. We're here. You have the right to exist. You have the right to belong. You are enough because you exist, because you are here on this earth. But sometimes we create incorrect birthrights depending on what family we were born into, what experience we were born into. And when you're a baby in your mother's womb, you are absorbing the chemicals that the mom is experiencing in her body, depending on the environment that she's in, the thoughts that she's creating, right? So her body is filled with chemicals, and you as the child are absorbing them. So when you are born, you also come into this world excited to be here. I mean, we're crying, we're like, being born. And then we are observing our environment. The brain is rapidly growing. This is why in 2 months, it's a significant change within a baby. But for us, we're the same, right? Like nothing really changes for us in 2 months. But for babies and children, it's so much is happening in that developmental process. And the brain is starting to make these circuits to create meaning of the world. And how do we exist here? What is safe? What is not safe? Who's supposed to take care of us? And because we are fully dependent on our parents, we look to them as for survival. So we need them to be good in order for us to be safe. And we're depending on what's going on. So here's, for an example, a situation had happened where maybe an experience when you were younger, your parent, it wasn't an unplanned pregnancy. I mean, how many times has that happened, right? For many of us. And the thought that a mother, or the experience is, oh my gosh, I wasn't even expecting, this was so unexpected. I can't believe, like, it was so hard. Like, I was young. We didn't have any money. Like, this is just the story that we're just sharing. But what is being received from that child at a very young age is, I don't belong here. I'm a burden. I create, this is stressful. So this is what the child is trying to make sense of. And I know this is a lot for one podcast, but what happens is that many of these things that we are experiencing come from that very short period from birth to 5 years old. The I'm not enough. No matter, I've worked with the most successful clients that millions and millions of dollars, and they still feel like they're not enough. They have
Mm,
accolades and their people are like raving about how amazing they are, and they still don't feel like they're enough.
mm,
Or, I just feel like I'm a burden, and they always feel like they're just not, they don't belong. And no matter if somebody tells them, of course you belong. I love you here. You're so great. Inside them, they're like, no, this is wrong. I don't feel like I belong. So some of
wow.
the core limiting beliefs are I'm not enough. I'm not lovable. I'm broken. I'm bad. I
Mm,
don't belong. I shouldn't be here.
mm,
Um, and there's just so many limiting beliefs. Like I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not deserving. No good things happen to me. I'm not, I'll never succeed. Um, these are just, again, thoughts that many of us do have on a daily basis. And
wow.
the difference is, do we lean into that belief and how does that affect our life?
Right.
Or do we just see it as a limiting belief and then we say, okay, this is not who we are. This is just an old program that needs to be updated. And
Hmm.
that's the work that we do.
That's a great way to put that. Is this just an old program that, yeah, that's a great way to put that. And you're saying this, I'm listening, I'm like, my gosh, I know a bunch of people who, you hear trigger words or you hear certain things and you're like, wow,
Mm. Mhm.
like you said, you could be so successful, super popular. Everybody
Mhm.
loves this person, but yet for them, that's
Mhm.
not what they, going back to the word earlier, perceive for
Yes.
themselves. So, good grief, that's wild.
Yeah.
So, what tools and techniques do you use to help with your coaching?
Yeah. So in the coaching practice, depending on the situation, there's lots of different tools that I utilize. But a lot of the work that we'll do is understanding the different parts within you. So as we age, we grow in years and through experiences, we become older. But what does that mean? What happens to the younger version of us, right? Like, where does it go? Does it just go away because we're 1 year older and time has gone by? No, there's many parts of us. And the work that I also do, it has to do with this inner child, right? There's still that little child part of you that never maybe felt heard or feels scared, and it shows up in different ways. So we start to discover parts. So one of the times with my client, I will utilize this tool if I hear, I want this, but I keep doing this. I don't understand. I feel like I have no control. Why is this happening? I'm like, okay, so we need to understand your parts. We need to know
Mhm.
what is running the show, what is stopping you from having what you want. And another belief that I have is that we hear about self-sabotage. I will use that
Mhm.
word, but it's never self-sabotage because it's actually self-protection. It's just the tools that they're using, right? The strategies, the behavior is outdated. Maybe it worked when you were a child and it kept you safe then, but it's actually sabotaging what you want in the future,
Mm.
in the present. So we gotta understand, what is that part trying to protect, right? Because that
Right.
often does lead to sabotage. We do belief. We uncover your beliefs, meaning like, how do you see the world? How do you see yourself? What is your identity? How do you see others? How do you see the world? Where did this come from? Where did you establish this belief? What happened? And then we start to say, is there another belief that you can hold now, knowing what you know now, with
Mhm.
your frontal cortex fully activated with the experiences that you've had, that maybe is serving you better? How can we go back to that time where you imprinted that belief, and how can we change that?
Yeah.
Um, and then we do work in that area. We work on biases like perceptions, the words that you use, how your brain is always listening. So if you're using words like, I'm never going to have this, or I feel I'm out of control, or I suck, like, you're going to use these words. And although you think that they're just words that are just made up, they're actually reinforcing what you will experience. So we talk a lot about language and how important that is. Um,
Words are powerful.
Yes. Yeah.
Even when you're speaking them over yourself, words are so powerful. My sister Chase would love to hear what you're talking about right now because she says that all the
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, don't speak those negative things, because they have a way of manifesting themselves um, tangibly. So
Mhm.
what you're saying is spot on, and it makes so much sense. And we've seen it. We can handpick examples of
Mhm.
someone that we know that constantly, oh, like you said, I suck, or I'm not good enough, or I'm this, or I'm always going to be that, and you
Mhm.
see it. It's perpetual.
Mhm.
That's wild when you think about it. Yeah.
And I always ask, what is it for? Not why, but why, what are you trying to protect? When I hear all of us want, like we all want we want to thrive. We want happiness.
Mhm.
We want joy. We want the great relationships. We want all these things. But what's stopping you from having it?
Mhm.
Why? And that's the curiosity. So
Mhm.
you want something, but for something you might either have told yourself just to keep you in the safe. So there is this comfort zone that many people find themselves in. And because our brain is wired for pain and pleasure, if it's not pain, the mediocre, just enough is what keeps people in a state of anxiety, because it's not pain. The situation is
Mm.
not painful enough to actually take action to change, but
Mhm.
it's not pleasure. So it's just at this like just getting by stage, you're just getting,
Mm.
and that's misery. And people are just like, oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. No, 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 no. This is why we're in such a disarray of like everyone, whether on medication or, suicide is like at the highest it's been ever. And you think again, well, this person seemed fine, like they
Mhm.
seemed okay. They seemed happy, right? But inside, that's what matters. It's not about what is happening externally. It's really what's happening internally. And one of the biggest struggles that I do have through this, um, through all of the work that I've done, is wanting something more than somebody wants for themselves.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I,
because
I, I,
you see the light at the end of the tunnel. You see the potential. You see the
yeah.
goodness, but they don't see it for themselves.
Yes. And I have to release that. That's the work that I'm doing. I'm releasing because I know that some of my patterns have always been trying to fix others. And that's unfair. That's so disempowering because people aren't broken. They're just, everyone is whole. Like we are love, we're whole. We've just had a lot of things happen to us over this human experience that is keeping us from fully expressing ourselves and fully being ourselves. And really, who are we? Like, that's the
Mhm.
biggest thing is like, who are you? If you were born in another family, you may be someone completely different. So it's unlearning some of these beliefs and unlearning some of this identity that we've created for ourselves to create who we want to be. And I see that in others. I see the greatness in them, and I see this beautiful, true um, person that was created. And then I see these behaviors, and I see these thoughts, and I'm like, if you could just do this, and then I have to say to myself, no, we all have our soul's journey here, and it is up to our individual selves to either discover it or not.
Mhm.
And that has been really hard for me, but it is something that I'm getting better with, which again, I keep reminding myself that this is their journey as well as it's my journey. And when you're going through change work and you're doing things, you kind of expect everyone around you to be on board with this work that you're doing, or that they're supposed to do it as well. And then you have to say, no, like this isn't about I change so that I can have something. when you're changing anything in your life, it has to come from self. It has to come that no matter, without any expectation of what you think is going to happen if you change. It just has to come from you wanting to be the best version of yourself, no matter what happens on the external.
Laura, this is some deep stuff. This is some seriously deep stuff. We're going to pause for a moment here. We're going to take a brief commercial break. We'll be back in about 60 seconds. Come back and hear the rest of Laura's story.
Great.
Interactive workbooks, The Basics of Financial Literacy, A Healthy Money Mindset, and The Basics of Financial Literacy, A Healthy Money Mindset for Teens and Young Adults. Now available on Amazon. Dive into practical exercises and start building a solid financial foundation today.
Hey, what are you wearing?
Hey, what are you wearing?
Hey, what is it that you're wearing?
The Misfit.
Okay, we are back, and we are going to bring Miss Laura Hardnett back. I don't know if you guys have been taking notes, but I sure have been. She's been giving us some great gems today, and we're going to try to convince her. Don't tell her I said so, but we're going to try to convince her to come back for another episode in the near future. Welcome back, Miss Laura.
Hi.
You've been giving us some great stuff.
Great. Thank you.
I feel like, I had a question prepared for you about how this role has impacted your own journey. I feel like what we talked about last segment, you touched on that, that you still are working on yourself, and that even though that you have your certifications and you are in this coaching phase of your life, you're still working on you too. And I think that's a really powerful thing to have shared with the audience, because it makes it clear that none of us truly all have it all together, right? We're work in progress. And so I'm glad you shared that. So with that, I'm going to ask you to address, if you have any misconceptions about mindset and empowerment coaching that you think would be good for our audience to hear.
Yeah. So I will speak a little bit more to the idea that just because, you go into a certain, I think that people go into a practice or go into a profession because they actually needed it the most. And I really went into this work because I definitely needed it the most. And it was so interesting because I had a friend who said, Laura, how can you help anyone if you're still struggling with this? And it really got into my head, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how can I help anyone? I am dealing with this laundry list of these issues in my life. So who am I? Who am I to help anyone if I can't even help myself? And through prayer and just reading and through just my own mentors, what I was able to decide was that there is no such thing as perfection. And in fact, perfection is a trauma response. It's an unhealthy coping mechanism for unhealed wounds. To think that you have to be 100% healed and perfect to do anything is just a way that we limit ourselves from sharing our message or doing the things that we want to do. And this is where this imposter syndrome gets pushed in. It's like, who am I to think that I can help other people? What I did learn is that I could only help people to the max of how I was able to help myself. So the more people I wanted to help, the more work I had to do on myself. So it didn't necessarily have to say that I could never help anyone. It just meant that, John Maxwell, who is a leadership coach, teacher, and not a coach, he's a teacher. He actually, he did have a coaching program that I took years ago. And one of the things that they teach is the law of the lid. And it had to do about, you can only lead somebody up to your leadership lid. In order for you to lead higher, you need to raise your lid higher, right? So it's like the roof. And it made so much sense to me. So again, I have empathy and I have compassion because I know the pain, I know the struggle. And to this day, I find myself sometimes trying to go back into the old program in moments. But the difference is that I'm very self-aware. I know when I'm shifting out. I actually have conversations between the parts. I start to get very curious about, what is this for? What am I learning? What do I have to learn through these emotions and these feelings? What is the story that I'm telling myself? What is the first feeling of that story that I remember? Because what you think you're upset about isn't what you're upset about. You're upset about an unmet need that you had very early, way before the situation happens, that you feel like you're upset about. So I checked myself. And I just learn how to utilize the tools that I share and the work that I do to actually coach myself. And honestly, that's the kind of what I hope to do with my clients, is to get to that point with them, because no matter what you do with me, you're going to have situations that trigger these things within. And then you want to be able to have the tools and the resources to move you through it. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, so I would say the misconception about mindset coaching is that it is life coaching. Like, we're going to work on your goals and we're going to set up a list of things that you need to do, and we're going to do that. And although that there is clarity and goal setting that we utilize in the mindset coaching, I still believe that's something that needs to happen, right? We need to know like what we're shooting for, but but with mindset, it's more going to be into, what are the stories that you tell yourself? What is the gap? The gap is normally the space between where you are and where you want to be. And the gap is filled with fear, limiting beliefs, lack of clarity, and the inner critic. And I address those areas to get you to where you want to go. So rather than giving you a list of to-dos. Yeah.
That's great. That's awesome. Knowing what you know now as a coach, what advice would you go back and give 20-year-old Laura?
Knowing what I know now, it was that you're enough. You are enough. And you don't have to put on a show to be enough. Like, you can be you. And that you may not know who you are because you feel like you has to be like one thing, but you is many different versions of yourself. And as you experience life, you're going to go through different versions of you. And that's okay. And, and you don't have to impress people to be loved, because as long as you know that you're good, you're good.
I love that. What do you hope that 60-year-old Laura would have to say about today's Laura?
What 60-year-old Laura have to say about that? I really daily try to be very intentional with doing the uncomfortable. So I hope that 60-year Laura doesn't have regrets that I didn't do something that I wanted to do because I was scared. That 60-year-old Laura would be proud that even if things didn't work out the way that I had hoped them, even through the failures, that I did live life. Because I think we're all going to get to this age of life. I read something the other day and somebody said, okay, if you were given $10 million would you take it? And they were like, of course. And I'm like, but if somebody gave you $10 million and said, but you're going to die tomorrow, would you take it? And they're like, no. Right? Like life, like time is way more valuable than this financial, reach that we think is going to make our lives better. But if I can live life fully and say, like I look back and I loved fully, I shared my thoughts and my feelings, and I didn't let fear stop me, that I took the risks that I wanted to take, that I stepped outside of my comfort zone, that I did the uncomfortable, that I traveled, that I just didn't get stuck in the mundane, like groundhog way of just going through the motions. I think that I would be proud at 60.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You have been awesome today, and I appreciate you. I want to know, how can our audience get in touch with you or stay updated with your upcoming engagements, events, things like that?
Yeah.
Can you tell us that?
Well, I hope. Thank you. I would love for anyone listening that felt like there was value. What I provide on my social media platform is often like little tidbits and tips to try to, shift and reframe thoughts and kind of create more positivity. And when on Instagram, my name, which is Laura, and then it's _ Hardnett, because I find that it's much easier for people to find me with my name. That is my Instagram tag. I do have a website, which I'm updating, and it's called Empower You Coaching, which I can share with you too, .com. And I'm working on a program, and it is mostly focused on for men. And this one to master your mindset. And it's using the reframe structure that I've created. So I want to read it, if you don't mind, real briefly. Can I read what
Please.
reframe means?
Yes, please.
Okay, good. So thank you. So reframe stands for release limiting beliefs, empower your thoughts, find new perspectives, recognize emotional triggers, align with values, mindfully respond, and elevate your mindset. So each of those are things that are the tools that I use in my coaching to kind of reframe situations to have the outcome or to have the life or to reduce the suffering that we create in our minds. So I'm in the process of creating this group that I'm hoping within the next month or two that I'll have it up and going and ready to go, but there will be a wait list for it. I already have several people that are interested in it, but I hope to be able to do maybe a couple groups depending on, who's interested in joining. But you could sign up now and then stay up to date with when I actually launch it. But I just wanted to kind of put it out there because I think that that's something exciting that I'm really looking forward to launch.
Definitely. So tell us one more time. So it's Laura _ Hardnett, and that's on your Instagram handle.
And that's
tell us
on
the
my
website again.
It's empoweryoucoaching.com.
That's awesome. Laura, you are amazing, and I hope I can convince you to come back and visit us in the near future, because you've got a lot of great things to share, and I think our audience will surely benefit from it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm going to ask you to leave the audience with one last thing before you go. Can you tell our audience one of two things? Either your greatest joy or your favorite quote and why it's your favorite quote.
Okay. Greatest joy or the quote. I know the quotes, and I want to say it, but I don't want to mess it up. So, Marianne Williamson said, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. Embrace your power to change your beliefs and consequently your reality." So that is my favorite quote. because I do believe that once we realize how powerful we are and the way how our mind can really create a completely different reality than what we're experiencing, everything changes. So that's what I have like plastered up in my bathroom. I'm like, it's just something to remind me every day that we're here for a reason and we're powerful beyond measure. And that scares us because we feel like, if we have power, what are we supposed to do with it? Right. So
Right.
so I know a lot of
Now
people are
what?
like, women, I don't want all that responsibility. I think Spider-Man has that saying, right? With great power comes great responsibility.
Yes, yes.
But even if you impact one person, even if you could help one, it doesn't have to be this profound change of the world, right? It's just like, even if you can make one person's day better, that's enough. And I believe that to be true.
I love it. That's an amazing quote. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, if you'll stay with us just about another minute. Thank you so much again. I cannot thank you enough. Laura Hardnett, ladies and gentlemen, really wonderful person to talk to. Visit her website, visit her on Instagram, and stay in touch. Keep up with what she's got going on, new things, events, and whatnot. Laura, thank you again.
Thank you.
All right. I want to leave you all with a few things. Number one, I want you to visit our website at life-uncensored.com. You will be able to see a few things, see how you can contact us, see our latest episodes, what we're about, what our mission is, what we hope to accomplish in that mission. Again, how to contact us, send us a line, tell us what you're thinking, if you have any ideas for upcoming episodes, and also our merch. So again, that's lifeuncensored.com, where you can see what's going on with us and what's coming up. And we'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, we can be found on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and now our episodes are airing on Spotify. So stay tuned. Tell your friends, tell your family. And I want to leave you with my favorite quote. The bottom line is, if you take chances in life, sometimes good things happen and sometimes bad things happen. But honey, if you don't take a chance, nothing happens. That's from Dorothy Zbornak on The Golden Girls, my absolute all-time favorite show. Life Uncensored, navigating adulthood one episode at a time. We were glad to have you. Stay tuned for our next episode, airing June 12th, with our guest, Nicole Garner. I think you'll want to hear what she's got to talk about. Ciao.